Heck of a title, yeah? Well, hopefully it's justified, because today I want to look at a rather dystopian trend in Hollywood where major entertainment companies, primarily Disney for today's video, are resurrecting certain characters through CGI, AI, and special effects. Why? I won't make you wait till the end of the video here, I'll just get to the point really early. Because it's cheaper, and because these characters come with pre-established levels of demand that can be used to predictably generate profits. At least, that's probably the logic they use. I'm no fan of Disney or Hollywood, but the truth here is that blockbuster entertainment is an industry that impacts billions of people. Good, bad, fun, horrible, doesn't matter. What matters is that hundreds of thousands derive work from the industry, while hundreds of millions of people consume the actual products, and that cycle has been spinning for decades. Money goes in, products get made, thousands, maybe even tens of thousands of people work on set for any given production or in post-process editing, and then the general public buys the tickets. Fundamentally, that's fine. No harm, no foul. But all of it, the stability, the careers, even audience satisfaction in general, might be on the line here in the future as a result of digital necromancy. That's a flashy way of saying it, but the baseline premise here is actually very simple. According to Travis Cloyd, virtual reality filmmaker and CEO of Worldwide XR, in reference to the process of digitally resurrecting deceased actors, says, quote, "You don't need to spend capital to market dead actors. You bring them with all the history, all the awareness, all the marketing built into their brand," end quote. Yeah, that's pretty on the nose, but perhaps no other company in the entire industry has pursued that concept more aggressively in recent days than Disney. Famously resurrecting Carrie Fisher in The Last Jedi, Disney has fully embraced the concept of digital necromancy, even deliberately preparing, so it seems, to do it much more often in the future. Some people may not know, but Disney also resurrected Peter Cushing in Rogue One. They didn't resurrect necessarily Mark Hamill, not yet anyway, but they CGI'd a younger version of him in The Mandalorian and The Book of Boba Fett. But to take it a step further, they're not just doing this in the actual cinema content, they're even doing it for marketing. In 2022, Disney revealed that they had digitally recreated Harrison Ford and had him praise the Star Wars films purely for the benefit of advertising, and the list goes on. It's not even just Disney, really, or Lucasfilm, rather, which is a wholly owned subsidiary of Disney ever since 2012, hence my interchangeable usage of the names here. Warner Brothers is also doing this, spurring a hefty amount of criticism over their newest film, The Flash, and the list of Hollywood studios either pursuing the technique or already using it is constantly growing. The thing is, once a trend has been established in what seems to be a typical Hollywood fashion, it gets abused until everyone hates it completely. Disney now supposedly scans all of their most popular characters. That may seem like a good idea on the surface, considering the colossal value of these characters in the world of entertainment, but if the plan is to then use them in films for decades after the original actor has died, it gets a little bit more sinister, don't you think? Not enough? Okay. What about if Disney decided to scan extras as well, the people who work in the background of movies to keep them populated, with full-body analytics to create digital versions of them, and then use those for a fraction of the cost in further properties? Would that start to get freaky? Maybe? Because that's allegedly what's happening. Reported by NPR with regards to the Disney Plus series WandaVision, extras are now being subjected to detailed body scans in order to preserve their digital likeness. That's pretty intense, and also comes with a complex legal question about rights and ownership. But even setting those aside for the moment, those complex legal questions, which honestly can't really be set aside for very long, but if we do it right now for the moment, we find ourselves in uncharted territory. Extras usually make between $100 and $200 per day. It's nothing crazy, not at all, but it's a living for those who know how to pursue it. However, a digital replication of them, based on full body movement and facial scans, will cost pennies to implement as the technology gets refined. Every movie is different for obvious reasons, but when a blockbuster film can sometimes have 10 or 20,000 unique extras, most of them paid fairly and represented by unions, which is sort of why they get paid fairly in this particular instance, the prospect of having a perpetual and perfectly controllable alternative to those actors for pennies on the dollar becomes attractive. This practice is allegedly becoming much more common, and when combined with the fact that Hollywood has now openly acknowledged the appeal of pre-existing brand recognition for famous actors, it starts to paint a bit of a troubling picture. On the one hand, yes, films may begin saving tremendous amounts of money in the costume department, makeup, organization, and raw human hours, but on the other, a substantial industry of honest labor gets wiped out purely because we can now digitize human likeness in ever-advancing ways. Hollywood, seemingly led by Disney right now at this point in time, is experimenting with new techniques to replace human acting with digital effects. And while some discerning fans are obviously displeased with that, and it doesn't even really look that good, an entirely new generation of watchers really just don't seem to care. Something I find to be extremely interesting right now on a personal level is that the trend of digital preservation is rapidly growing, and for a lot of celebrities, it's actually voluntary. According to MIT Technology Review, a company called Digital Domain is now helping a select clientele of celebrities preserve their digital likeness, making it simpler for them to be recreated in the future. During an interview with Ingvild Dila, the actor whose body I believe was used to recreate Princess Leia in Rogue One, quote, "It's sort of a safe bet for the people with the money. It's a familiar face. We like to repeat what's worked in the past, so it's part financial, part nostalgia," end quote. The statement rings especially true here, because that's precisely what the goal has become. Why do something new if you can do something that already worked in the past with the same person, the same face, and the same audience? If you already know that there is a wildly popular franchise with a successful actor and a huge initial audience who love them, why would you try to make something creative, original, and authentic when you can just digitally resurrect that character and prey on the nostalgia? Obviously, the true fans want something creative and original or unique, but if the financial incentives are 100% aligned against it, why would it ever happen? Of course, all of this ignores the fact that there is a substantial amount of pushback. The New York State Senate, as one example, shout out to Shino for finding a bunch of this research, has two bills on the agenda, S7422 and A7634, I believe, which aim to ensure that natural persons are not displaced by AI in the film industry. Both of these legislative actions are in committee right now, which means that we have absolutely no idea what will happen with them in the future, but the point here is to illustrate that digital necromancy and full-body scanning in the entertainment world is not a one-sided capitalistic dream. The more advanced it becomes, the more human pushback they will get. Good, bad, neutral, that's up to you to decide. All of this has given rise to a sort of ethical debate, if you will, over the morality of using deceased actors in films who never actually signed away those rights during their lifetime. It's certainly not the first time it's ever happened. One fairly notable example going way back would be Gladiator in 1999, where Proximo had to be digitally modified for a few seconds to finish a key scene after the actor's unexpected passing before release. But the speed at which Hollywood is now embracing and pursuing the act of digitizing actors for post-death usage is pretty intense. Something I found to be pretty cool on a personal level at least is how Robin Williams artfully restricted the usage of his likeness for 25 years post-death, meaning that studios actually can't use some sort of digital necromancy voodoo to create new films with his face in them. The provision directly prohibits anything like holograms, or, more relevant for today, here, digitally inserting his likeness into films. I don't know if I would call it clairvoyance or anything intense like that, right? But the provision has an uncanny level of impact given the now growing industry push towards digitizing celebrities. However, the pursuit of a flawless digital actor goes way further back than we all might think, especially way further back than I may have made it seem so far in the video. At the University of Southern California, as far back as 2008 and 2009, there has been this thing called the Digital Emily Project. Here's a quote about the project from Peter Plantek of VFX World. Quote, "This is the first virtual human animated sequence that completely bypasses all my subconscious warnings. I get the feeling of Emily as a person. All the subtlety is there. This is no hype job, it's the real thing. I officially pronounce that Image Metrics has finally built a bridge across the Uncanny Valley and brought us to the other side," end quote. For anyone who's not aware, the Uncanny Valley phenomenon, which I've covered before in its own dedicated video, is when something has a near human likeness which makes legitimate humans feel uncomfortable. Near, close, but not really. See, as an object begins to resemble human likeness, we gain affection and trust for it in a fairly linear pattern, right? The more like a human it seems, the more comfortable we are. Except when it gets right up close and almost perfectly looks like a human, but somehow doesn't quite match up. That kind of similarity, the kind that's close but not quite there, is called the Uncanny Valley because our trust and comfort with that object or person, robot, whatever it is, falls off a cliff with a visceral response of disgust when it's human but not quite human. So the idea that this university project from 2008, all the way back then, has somehow broken that barrier is rather interesting to me. Disney kind of fails at it, if we're being completely honest here. Some of their most recent CGI celebrity cameos have felt just frankly horrible and pissed off their audience with good reason. But if we step back and look at the entire picture, this has been something that the industry, the Hollywood industry, is actively chasing for like 15 years. Now, I have no idea where it all ends up, but if we know for a fact that Hollywood has a goal and has been actively pursuing that goal for a very long time, with an explosion of large studios right now using the techniques in major franchises to resurrect or de-age nostalgic faces, it seems pretty self-evident that the trend is just getting started. I hope, and this is purely opinion, so keep that in mind, but I hope that the future of filmmaking isn't just digitizing a small circle of faces and then repurposing them relentlessly for maximum profit. That seems kind of horrible and creatively bankrupt, but The phenomenon of digital necromancy, currently embraced full scale by the likes of Disney in particular, seemed like an interesting topic to cover. If you have feedback or different videos you want to see made or anything like that, let me know in the comments down below. There are links, of course, in the description to support the channel, locals, Patreon, those are monthly subscriptions, social media, etc., etc. Also, a comprehensive cybersecurity product affiliate list if you guys want to check that out or work on your digital security. But yeah, I'll cut it there and stop rambling. As always, oh, and by the way, I'm still actively getting sued by a grifter, so there's a GoFundMe there, but things are going well on that front. I'm really not worried about it, so yeah, I don't know. Just keep that in mind. There's a whole bunch of links. As always, thank you all for watching, and have a nice night.